Diaries. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Jamuna Tira Vanachariyam Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravija Acharya Astoro Shishimat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravija Acharya Astoro Shishimat His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Anantikoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Nam Acharya Slaridas Thakur Ki Prem Sakaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Sisi Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Navdev Dham Ki Gangamai Jamunamai Ki Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, thank you very much for coming this morning. And we're going to be discussing or reading from the Transcendental Diary by Hari Suri Prabhu. The chapter we are doing the date is June 18th, 1976, and this is in Canada. And Canada is a very cold country. The way Hari Suri puts it, he says, the water at the temple is so cold that after only a minute under the shower, it gives one a headache. That's how cold it is. And this cold weather was not good for Prabhupada because he became easily congested, and therefore he kept himself warm, like a chadar, a pullover, and a woolen hat. A woolen hat. And then Satsvarup Maharaj gave some background information on a Professor O'Connell, who was about to visit him that afternoon. And he said the professor had written a review of Dr. Stolson, a book that was called The Hare Krishna and the Counterculture. And the review was favorable, but O'Connell, he had one objection. And then he said it was a very sympathetic book. Dr. Judah, he said, and a little bit too sympathetic on one point. He made the statement, he thinks that our movement, we deny the flesh. So when you deny the flesh, meaning that there's no union between male and female, or there's no interaction between males and female, it makes the person a little bit cold. The relationships with each other become very cold. And in this way, we actually deny the natural affection that is somehow connected with the flesh. Then Prabhupada replies, and Prabhupada responds to what Satsvarup Maharaj was saying, that according to Lord Chaitanya, a Vaishnava should not associate with those who are attached to women. Since we are following that policy, we cannot be sympathetic to such a society. Those who are infected, they should be separated. You cannot make compromise. So Prabhupada was not ready to compromise the principle. Remember that when you see like the sun rise in the east, and as we go further to the west and to the other countries of the world, people become more demonic. The people are more pious from India. But when you move to the west, people are more demonic. Because the sun actually means knowledge. You're enlightened with knowledge. But as you move towards the west and to other parts of the world, you become demonic and you don't know much about God. So Prabhupada, seemingly Satsvarup is kind of clarifying what the professor meant by the flesh. And Satsvarup Maharaj is saying that the professor was referring to our own society, not to somebody else's society. Because that was Prabhupada was thinking. He said, his point that even amongst ourselves, even among the devotees, there is not enough expression of love. See, love is a very, my understanding of love when I was like 17 or 18 years, my understanding of love was that if you love somebody, then you can't exploit that person. That was my understanding of love. And therefore I thought more love meant there was no illicit sex. But I never knew it so much till I came to the Hare Krishna movement. I didn't really kind of grapple. I grappled with it, but it became more and more clearer when I joined the Hare Krishna movement. But then I was already married. And I think what it comes down to is that he objects that we are against illicit sex. So when we, generally when people meet us in the streets, some people, they are naive and out of innocence they say, oh, in the Hare Krishna movement you can get married. You hear this? Premagali? Because, and we could talk about it, yeah. Because they know that we follow these principles. You get it? Indirectly they are saying that these principles are hard to follow. And it's true. It's not that easy to follow these principles, but it's possible. So Prabhupada and the devotees laughed. Oh, that means he's accustomed, meaning that that person is Professor O'Connell. He's a professor of the university, but he is accustomed to sex life. That's what it means. And then another devotee, Jagadish, says, these professors, they sit around, discuss topics of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and drink wine. Now, it's not keeping when one is having spiritual discussions, then intoxication must be kept far away, where you can't touch it. It's like that. Wine. And it reminded me of a song that was sung by, a few people. Red, Red Wine. You heard of this song? Premagal, you heard the song, Red, Red Wine. No, you didn't hear it, huh? Red, Red Wine. It says, red, red wine, go to my head, make me forget that I still need her so. So red, red wine. So these, some of these songs have sexual connotations also. And when listen to this type of music, that was sung by Neil Diamond in 1967. I was about 8 years old that time. And it was sung by another group called UB40 later. Bilva knows that, Bilva? So yes. So Satswarup agreed with Jagadish Prabhu, and the discussion is very blasphemous. And there's another person who was also an academic. Academics were delving into the 6 Goswamis' literatures. And he read the manuscripts. He was always going to India, studying Rupa Goswami, Lord Chaitanya. But everything was extremely blasphemous that he writes. So what is the use? And their habits were bad, and whatever they write, they were bad. But our devotees would go and distribute books. We had a library party at that time, and they became very friendly to the professors. But only to use them more or less to accept their books. So then Prabhupada, he expressed his approval, and he was, kind of elated by that news. Prabhupada said, yes, that we must do. Our policy is that when we go to people with bad character, we don't go to associate with them, but we to give them our association. So that principle we must follow. That we go, when we meet people, and we're going to meet people of bad character all the time. So we give them our association, but we don't take their association. So that's there. Therefore, we have to be very strong and very pure. If we're very strong and very pure, then our association will benefit the people that we meet. Isn't it? And there should be some discrimination when we're meeting people. You know, we make friends with devotees. We love somebody who loves the Lord. He makes friends with devotees. He's innocent to the, to the innocent people, he's very compassionate. He wants to deliver them. And to envious person, we just reject them. We don't place too much emphasis on envious people, because sometimes devotees get caught talking to envious people and they're going nowhere. Just by looking at you or they're seeing you, they have benefited spiritually already. Then Prabhupada is probing, he's asking Satsvarup further details of O'Connell's objection. And Satsvarup Maharaj now is responding. He said, because he's saying that we deny the expression of love through the body. Just like, household life, we only have sex when we want to have children. Otherwise, it's not allowed. And like people who are celibate, brahmacharis, and like people who renounce, like sannyasis, renounced order, they are not allowed to have sex at all. So the only, from brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyas, in the other three orders, there's no sex. 75% is out. Grihastha only for children. But then these are natural ways to express love, he says. This professor he's speaking, he says these are natural ways of expressing love, and by denying them, the people in the movement become somewhat cold, and they don't have that experience of love. But my question to you, but it's not here, my question to you, is it love or is it lust? Is it It's love. Bilva? Lust. But O'Connell is saying that this professor is saying there's a definite connection between flesh and love. So meaning that when to love somebody means to have sex. That's what it means. It's quite a topic. And you cannot deny it. This is according to the professor. So Satsvarup Maharaj, he argued with the professor, but that was his viewpoint, that love is expressed to the flesh. Then how did he become a doctor in Vaishnava philosophy? Dr. Dimon. And Srila Prabhupada seriously, raised the question that I asked you from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. What is the difference between lust and love? And he's saying, just see the devotees, they have loving relationships between each other, but it's not based on the flesh. And that is lust, Prabhupada said. And that is going on as love. But Satsvarup Maharaj is saying, basically he said it was a good book and that our movement is an important movement, but he made that one objection. So lust and love, which is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is a very, very high stage of love where Krishna has for the cowherd girl. It's pure and it's spotless. It is not at any time lust. But the pure love of the gopis becomes celebrated in the name of lust. In the name of lust. But the comparison given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is not mentioned here, I'm just adding this, lust and love have different characteristics. Just as iron and gold have different natures. There's a difference between iron and gold. The desire to gratify one's own senses, that's kama, that means it's lust. But the desire to please the senses of the Lord, of Lord Krishna, that is prema, that is love. And that's the only objection we have, to enjoy our own senses, but we're always catering our love for Krishna. And that is very powerful. Therefore, lust and love is quite different, although it's 4-letter words. Lust is like dense darkness, but love is like the bright sun. See? So those are important points to know. So after taking breakfast, Srila Prabhupada then slept until noon. But his face was badly swollen because of a severe toothache. But he refused to visit a dentist. He said the dentist will want to extract all his tooth. So what he did, he normally even sometimes when I have a sore throat, then I just eat some clove. And then it kind of burns it. And if you have pain, you just have a clove there. And it deadens the pain. So Prabhupada would normally, suck on a clove. And then he did that. But here again, he displayed his bodily detachment. How detached he was. An ordinary person, would be in agony, disturbed, complaining. But Prabhupada, he just sat quietly and he just tolerated it. That's Srila Prabhupada. So tolerating the pain is the theme here. Because no matter what you do, you'll be in this material world. It's a relative world and you're subjected to pain and pleasure. But to tolerate the pain, that's important. So sometimes people are suffering and we are compassionate, but it's beyond our capacity to help them. Often when I go and I see people hungry in the streets, I'm thinking, we serve some prasadam, we give them some prasadam. That's much we can do. But it's painful to see them suffering. Even for us. It's very painful. So that pain, can you imagine how much pain Krishna feels if we just feeling the little pain? Krishna feels more pain that the person is suffering in this material world, but the person don't want to go to Krishna. So a long letter came from Tusta Krishna, Swami from New Zealand, and there was some controversial subject matter there. But anyway, they were taking Prabhupada's instructions very seriously, and they were putting up a temple. And they enclosed plans how the temple, the domes, going to be, and what deities they're going to have, Gaur Nitai, Lord Nishingadev, and they had all these plans, and then they, in this letter, Shri Raghunath ki. They intend to begin work on Janmashtami. So anyway, and they designed some leaflets. They were telling Prabhupada about the leaflet, to encourage the community to join. And it was an attractively designed leaflet inviting the recipient to a community gathering for the purpose of singing the names of God, dancing free vegetarian feast. On the back it bore the Maha Mantra. They were getting some response, although he said it was difficult to gain their confidence because of exploitation by whites, because probably they were from a different races, they were like kind of how we are here. And he said he was corresponding with a lot of governmental officials, ministers, health ministers, and they were very favorable. This is what he was writing in this letter. The Prime Minister. And hopefully, he told Srila Prabhupada, they will begin to view us as serious thinkers with real solutions to the problems they can solve. Then Prabhupada guides him, how the domes should be and which deities to have, and Prabhupada kind of corrected him, and I'm not corrected him, but I kind of put it in better perspective how it should be. And he said they should also have Lord Jagannath deities, and they should also have a Ratha Yatra each year. But on the whole, Prabhupada was very pleased with Tushta Krishna's report. And Prabhupada asked him to send all his correspondence both to and from the government official, because Prabhupada wanted to see the exchanges. So then finally, Prabhupada added a few words on his preaching to the local people. He said, let them chant Hare Krishna. Listen to this very carefully. Let them chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Nothing else. And dance and take prasadam. There is no need for teaching them philosophy in the beginning. Because it's true, sometimes devotees tell me to preach to somebody, but less is more. Because they're not ready to hear this philosophy. You can just be kind to them, you can walk around with them, and we do that. So then they slowly, seriously take to it. And Prabhupada was saying that in America, even neither black or white people like each other. But in our society, everybody is chanting. We're not on the basis of color. We just chant and we dance. This is on the basis of the Hare Krishna. Everyone can join. And then, as far as the leaflet was concerned, that we are talking about, he said, on the small invitation, it should read, singing the names of Krishna, not God. Singing the names of Krishna brackets God. Sometimes we try to avoid the name of Krishna. And personally, I find it difficult to do so. Whoever I meet, whether they're coming from different race groups, we get them to chant and dance. Then there was a devotee called Tejas Prabhu who was preaching in Delhi, and he was a temple president, and a letter came from him. He was having some challenges, and he was living outside the temple, and he practically ceased to function as a temple president. And he said that there was heavy politics against him by the head pujari. Yeah, by the head pujari. The head pujari's name was, I'll clarify, Omkar Das. And there was lack of support from the GBC at that time, Gopal Krishna Prabhu. And this had caused some breakdowns in relationships, and the rest of the devotees, the relationships got a little bit bad, and he was unable to function as a president. So then he suggested, the Tejas Prabhu, that Gopal Krishna become the president as in interim measure in New Delhi, and he was proposing that these are things that he will do. He will preach to people in the high echelons of society, ministers, leaders, and he could personally continue his works and distribute Prabhupada's books. And he kind of expressed his confidence that he could sell sets of books to leading people in the government, highly placed officials in the government. And he also said that he sold a set to a court maybe a person in the legal field, probably Dr. Nagendra Singh, and he was a former president of India. So Tejas Prabhu was meeting all these people on the higher echelons in society, but by his own admission, I'm just reading Gandaki, I'm just reading that Prabhupada, one of Prabhupada's disciples, Tejas Prabhu, had distributed a set of Srimad Bhagavatam to the former president of India. So you must try to distribute the set to some people high in society now. And she said, distributed 2 books, 2 sets last week Sunday at the temple here at the book table. And next morning, very elated, she called me and said she distributed another set. And I was so happy. I went to Sukumari and I was sharing this news, and so wonderful. Thank you, Gandaki. Come more to the book table, huh? Okay. Yeah. So it's nice to hear these reports, I was writing a letter to Partha Maharaj. I didn't complete it, but I'll complete it maybe tonight and send it. Yeah. And it's nice to hear these books distributed to people of this caliber. So then Prabhupada, responded that if you can arrange with Gopal Krishna to take over with the management, the president, then that's fine with him, and you can continue your preaching. So like this, Prabhupada also said that New Delhi is the most important place for preaching to the leaders of India, because that's the capital city. So then Prabhupada, from his afternoon nap, then there was some conversation between him and Pushta Krishna Maharaj, who came to South Africa. He's late now, he passed away. He was a surgeon also. And then some discussion started, and Prabhupada started speaking about, I'll just paraphrase it. He was speaking about the civilization of the dog's race on 4 wheels. Meaning those people who own cars. It's a dog's race on 4 wheels. Because people think that if I have a vehicle, then I will come to the temple. But that don't happen. They even change the number plates to me with a spiritual master's name. They still don't come. Isn't it? People still don't come. Like I preached to one lady who worked with me, name was Leela. Anyway, Leela was from Shellcross. And she in the 80s, 87, 80s, she used to come and help us to clean vegetables on the bottom, yeah. And she became, she was chanting 16 rounds. She said, I must get a car. I reckon don't get a car. She said, I must get a car. I reckon don't get a car. And when she got the car, she didn't come. See? So, it's a dog's race on 4 wheels. Because then you're not coming to the temple, you're going to the mall. Galleria. Where else is other places? Westwood, Pavilion, Gateway, all these malls you'll start going to. It's okay if you're going to buy for Krishna. No offense on that, I have to clarify. Yeah, no offense. You can go buy for Krishna. But then you go to these malls and you spend so much of time. So anyway, Prabhupada was speaking on this. But actually it's a dog's life, he said. No value, actually no value. We cannot have any value to this type of civilization. Running like a dog with car. And Prabhupada didn't drive actually. He rode a bicycle. And In India they normally would have drivers who would drive them around. And yeah. So Pushta Krishna and Harisuri Prabhu recalled how he had spoken in strong terms to his audience, both in South Africa and Madras. And what he was calling the people in South Africa? Calling them cats and dogs. And still they had applauded in there and they were clapping. So Prabhupada called the South Africans cats and dogs. Normally we use there's a term, when it's raining very heavy, say it's raining like cats and dogs. There's a term like that. Raining like cats and dogs. But this, Prabhupada is saying here, you're like cats and dogs. You're like, the civilization has changed to cats and dogs. Cats are meant to be outside. Dogs are meant to be outside. Not inside the house. I remember when I was in Carpinteria, and they had one dog called Radhe Radhe, yeah? The dog, one day I opened the door, the dog came out. And Giriraj Maharaj got very upset with me. The dog went away. But I was not upset. I was thinking, but this dog not supposed to be in the house. So, that was my understanding. Because, people sing things differently. But I was not, and I was so shaken up, especially when you get chastised. That look, and it's like really, I felt bad. But I know I read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that dogs must not be in the house. And and once the dog was in the car and we were driving to some devotee's home, Radha Priya's house, and I made sure that the dog didn't touch me. So we are like dogs, like we're begging for scraps of bread. And Prabhupada is in his purport in the Bhagavatam, he says how we become very qualified in academically, but we're going door to door to beg for a job, for scraps of bread. This is the modern civilization. And then they got into some discussion on the other planets, which anyway didn't make sense. And Prabhupada was not satisfied and shook his head in, about scientists. And they don't really know about the other planets. And they spend millions of dollars or billions of dollars of going to the other planets. And what they bring? They only bring some rock, some sand. We can get it here outside our temple. What's the use? Yeah. So then a discussion, this is an interesting discussion. He went to his god brothers, the Gaudiya Math. He was talking about the Gaudiya Math. And he was talking about one of his god brothers. It was quite a scandalous anecdote. The Bag Bazaar temple, Gaudiya Math. So there was one of his god brothers whose wife was a debauchee, like a prostitute. And so one day she brought a new paramour, a new man. And the child had grown up to 11 years. The boy was a 10 or 11 or 12, probably 12 years, 10 years, between 10 or 12 years old. And he could understand who is this man. So he protested. I shall tell all these things to my father, so the boy was saying. And he was killed. So Pushta Krishna Maharaj, Pushta Krishna Prabhu at that time, he was very shocked that the boy was killed by the mother, Prabhupada said. She murdered him. So he looked more shocked. And then Prabhupada said, yes, killed means by giving poison. And the father, that was Prabhupada's god brother, when he saw this, that happened to his child, he also took poison. and he died. That was the end of the Gaudiya Math scandal. But he was also one of the trustees. And then Prabhupada says, this Tirtha Maharaj was a trustee and another god brother and this man who died. In the beginning they were made trustees, 3 people. So, at that time Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was sick. He went to some surgical operation. Then he made like kind of a small, took a scrap of paper and said, if I die, then these people are the trustees of the Gaudiya Math. So one of the trustees was this man who died. His name was Vasudev. And he died like this. But his wife was a regular prostitute and she killed the child. So naturally he was shocked, But then Prabhupada says other things which we won't speak about. So, Prabhupada on occasions mentioned these incidents from the troubled past of the Gaudiya Math, especially the power struggle that took place there. See, when the spiritual master departs, whenever an acharya departs, there's some chaos in any society. And then the discussion came to the point that this Vasudev was a homosexual. And Prabhupada was shocked that, he was one of the trustees also. And Prabhupada said, yes, he was homosex and sex, everything. So homosexuality, and even if somebody is a homosexual, when they come to the temple, we treat them just as we treat other people. We don't now, criticize them in any way because of their condition, because they're coming to the right place. They need to take to spirituality. That will help them. But then Brahmananda, there was some discussion between Brahmananda and Prabhupada, but this is not in this book here. I found it in this conversation. Brahmananda says, about homosexuality? Oh yes, Prabhupada says. What is wrong? It's pleasure. They take it as pleasure. Brahmananda says, the priests, they are in a theological seminary and they are priests and they are saying that it's pleasurable, so why not do it? So they find pleasure. So Prabhupada says, and what is that pleasure? Stool passing and urine passing points are joined together and it is pleasure? Just see their standard of pleasure. Just like the pigs, with pleasure they eat stool. Just like if you give a pig some jalebi or halava, the pig may smell it and go away because it's nice. He doesn't eat it. But if we throw stool, he would eat. So they think it's pleasure. The standard of pleasure has gone down so low. This is Kali Yuga. So, but anyway, I don't want to speak about the other points. But then, even in the Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma was approaching the Lord and addressed him as thus, my Lord, please protect me from the sinful demons who are created by me under your order. So these type of people existed at the time of creation. They are infuriated by an appetite for sex and have come to attack me. And in the purport, I took from the Srimad Bhagavatam, it appears here that the homosexual appetite of males for each other is created in the episode of the creation of the demons by Brahma. In other words, the homosexual appetite of a man for another man is demonic and is not for any sane male in the ordinary course of life. So then we move back to Professor O'Connell and another Motilal from Toronto. This is in Canada University, Toronto University. And there was another, probably an Indian person, there were two Indians there, Sivaraman from McMaster University. And Professor Fendrick, visited along with their wives and some friends. So they visited Prabhupada. And Professor Connell was a long-time admirer of Srila Prabhupada. He met him in Harvard and in London. And he is a philosopher, he's teaching philosophy. So anyway, when the devotees were, was deprogrammed, they were deprogramming the devotees, making them, taking away Krishna consciousness from them. Then this person, this professor, he defended our movement as a genuine religion. But this Motilal was from a Bengali Brahmin Vaishnava family. But when he came to the West, he gave up this sacred thread. We have like a thread on our body where we chant the Gayatri mantra. So he gave it up. And what did he do? Eating meat and drinking. And, Srila Prabhupada was listening to them very carefully. Then again he started his 4-wheel dog race, which is the car. Dog runs here and there on 4 legs, and people run here and there on 4 wheels, all for no purposes. So then this Professor Shivaraman, he thought it's better to be moving than standing still and sleeping. It's better to be moving. Now he's talking about the car. Then Prabhupada, he asked, he's asking Prabhupada, wasn't rajas, means passion, and tamas, which is ignorance, better? Is passion and ignorance better? Prabhupada explained that one has to go beyond passion and ignorance to understand God. We were speaking about it yesterday. One has to be on the Suddha-sattva platform, on pure goodness. He has to transcend the modes of material nature. Then he can understand God. So this is Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada quoted Bhagavad Gita, the different problems of life, birth, old age, disease and death. And then he gave his solution. Understanding Krishna would solve all the problems of life and guarantee that one never has to take birth again in this material world. So, this Indian professor, now he's proposing that, that everyone is presenting their own interpretation of Bhagavad Gita. At least Prabhupada was saying that everybody is presenting their own interpretation of Bhagavad Gita. And therefore we are requesting everyone to study Bhagavad Gita as it is. Don't interpret. Don't get some meaning out of the Gita. Because everyone is trying to, screw out some information, some meaning. That is the disease of people. So Prabhupada was begging people to read this Bhagavad Gita as it is and try to understand it. Not give your own interpretation. And Prabhupada was stressing, one of the points that he was stressing, that it must come in parampara. We are just like a peon, like a postman. We just carry it only. We just repeat it. We just try to explain it. When something is clear, does it require interpretation? No. And Prabhupada was saying that this Bhagavad Gita is spoken in the battle of Kurukshetra. It exists, but people have a different understanding about it. So, then it must be understood literally, you say, the professor asked, as if this was something new to him. Yes, why not, Srila Prabhupada asked him. Suppose you've got some philosophy, so you can explain your philosophy differently. Why should you take Bhagavad Gita and explain your philosophy? Why should you do that? We shouldn't do that. And Prabhupada posed the question to him, is it honesty? You take Bhagavad Gita and you explain your own philosophy? No, that's not what we meant to do. Then The Prophet is saying all the acharyas have done it. And Prabhupada quickly responds, no acharyas are doing it. People are doing it. They are not acharyas, just like, and then Prabhupada said, Ramanuja Acharya, Madhva Acharya, Nimbaka Swami, Lord Chaitanya, they never did it. They never did these things. We have to follow the authority. And then he speaks about how to receive knowledge. And for somebody to receive knowledge, he has to be humble and he has to be prideless. There must be pridelessness and there must be humility. Otherwise he can't receive knowledge. And this is an acharya. Prabhupada went on like rambling about the acharya. Nothing should be changed. An acharya will never change the words and the meanings. Then another student who chipped in, a woman, and her name was Mrs. Mukherjee, and she asked about the position of women in our movement. So Prabhupada explained there is no distinction between man and woman on the spiritual platform. That is clearly said in the Gita, Mami Partha Vyapasritya, Ye Apisyu Papiyono, Striya Sudras Tata Vaishya. This is in the 9th chapter. These classes are understood to be less intelligent. Women, Sudra and Vaishyas. But Krishna says, no, even for them it is open. Because in the spiritual platform there is no such distinction. Man, woman, black, white, small, no. You see, Krishna is saying it. You can go fight with Krishna. I'm not saying it. It's there in the Gita. Everybody is spirit soul. Pandita, one who is actually learned, and he's Sama Darshina. He does not make distinction. So Prabhupada has now moved on to a very high platform. He's talking about that verse in Bhagavad Gita, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gaiva Hashtani Suni Chaiva Swapakacha Pandita Sama Darshina. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees equal vision. A learned and a gentle Brahmana, a cow and elephant, a dog and a dog eater, he sees equally. But this is quite a high stage. But Prabhupada is making this point to this person. Then this O'Connell, he chips in and he says, is it possible for women to come in a guru in the line of disciplic succession? And this, has been going, this kind of discussion has been going on in our movement. And Prabhupada assured him, yes, it's possible. Then people will use this, women can become gurus. But he said, Janavi Devi was Nityananda's wife. She became. If she is able to go to the highest perfection of life, why it is not possible to become guru? But not so many. It's not, you can't use this now. And then actually one who has attained perfection, she can become guru. But man or woman, unless one has attained perfection and is cognizant of the science of Krishna, he can become guru. So meaning that one has to be qualified. And if she understands perfectly, then she can take on disciples like that. Everybody is a guru in one sense because we're giving Krishna consciousness, we're explaining about God. Then this Professor O'Connell, he says, inquired about the way devotees regard someone who leaves. Do we look upon them as sinner or enemy when somebody leaves? Prabhupada is just so intelligent, he got answers for everything. He said, just like in college now, he's telling him because he's a teacher, he's a professor in the university school. Some students make rapid progress, somebody is very good, some of them are a little slow. That does not mean they should be rejected. He should be given a chance. But if he follows the regulative principle, there's no chance of falling down. The person can't fall down if you follow the principles. So our principles, And when we explain our principles, what our principles are? No gambling, no intoxication, no meat eating, no illicit sex. So we have to follow this. And if you want to have sex, then you marry and you have children, you become a grihasta. And Prabhupada then quotes like Lord Nityananda was a grihasta, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a grihasta. So many of them were grihastas. It is not that simply sannyasis will go back home. No, everyone can go. But one must be Krishna conscious. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's recommendation that you remain in your place and don't try to change it artificially, but be Krishna conscious. So like this, the discussion was going on, and he said that, if you become Krishna conscious, so one day you'll come to Krishna. You'll conquer Krishna. He says, Ajita, you can conquer him. Because really nobody can conquer Krishna. But if you love him by this method, when you serve him, you can conquer Krishna. And that anybody can achieve. So then, one of the guests was inquisitive to know whether Prabhupada is getting young or old people to join. And Prabhupada responded, there's no age restriction. But for youth, it is more easier, isn't it? Just like we'll say, who's joining the university, young or old people? Huh? Mainly young people. But in youth, learning becomes easier. But Prabhupada said, I'm an old man, and I've taken, like this, so many years have gone, and he forgot what he has learned. So they were quite, it was like some humor to them, that Prabhupada had forgotten. But then Prabhupada started using the Gita again, using the Gita. He's quoting from the Gita again, Yad Yad Achari Shreshtas. He's talking about whatever, some person in society who is well known, and if he follows, then lots of people would follow. Yad Yad Achari Shreshta, Tatad Evata Jana. 321 of Bhagavad Gita. So the common man start following. So he's saying that, what he's trying to do, he's trying to induce those people to follow. If you follow as a professor, then others will follow. So, he was requesting them like that. Then the professor was suggesting that we send some of our devotees for degree work. And Prabhupada told him frankly, it's really, we're dealing with Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavatam is studied by, in the Gurukul system. The students stay in the home of the master, and he's taught all these scriptures, how to control his senses. Which is better? Now we got schools and colleges that show you how to not to control your senses. You can do whatever you like, so long as you simply attend class. That is their way of life. But our way of life, we're telling you to control your senses. You're teaching them austerity. There's so many things. And then one of the professors asked him how long it had taken him to complete the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Prabhupada said 1.5 years. And then Prabhupada says how he would get up early in the morning, he would sleep at 10 and wake up at 12:30, and then translate his books. And then he would chant, and then later, follow the full program, and then chant again. And he would have his dictaphone, and he would be dictating, and like that. And volumes of books have been written. And they were, the people were just shocked that a person could have done so much. Then it came to the point of initiation. And Prabhupada was doing some initiation. But despite his, toothache, he was giving initiation to lots of people, to lots of disciple followers. And this initiation is very important. And Prabhupada gave a whole lecture, and he went on to these topics of controlling your senses and sex life and And he spoke about the two-legged animals, and he spoke about the four-legged animals. Because according to him, the man is a rational animal. He can reason. And then you have your two-legged animals, they can't reason. A man is a rational, which two-legged animals he's calling the men as two-legged animals. So, so long as we remain animal, we won't understand about spiritual life. He gives a very long lecture, and he speaks about the Gita, and he speaks about how, he speaks about second initiation also, upanayana, bringing the person closer to the spiritual master. Therefore, the second initiation is important, and he's given that sacred thread, like to bring him closer, because people are Sudras, they are of low class, so they're now becoming Brahmanas through the process of initiation. And you have to study, read the books, and follow. And be very austere. There's so many things Prabhupada said, but we cannot talk all about that. And then Prabhupada did the initiation. He gave the beads to the disciples and gave them new names. And it's important to change your name. Like in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's Dabir Khas and Sakra Malik. The name were changed to Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. Their names were changed, and it's there in a purport that the name must be changed. I'll read it. After initiation, the disciple's name must be changed to indicate that he's a servant of Lord Vishnu. The disciple should also immediately begin marking his body with tilak, especially his forehead. These are spiritual symptoms of a perfect Vaishnava. This is a verse from the Padma Purana. I found this it's not here in Hariswati's diary. This is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And one must put tilak, but don't now put your sari and then go, then just put your tilak here. Don't do that. Mark your body in all places, because it protects that parts of the body. And it said that if a person does not change his name after initiation, it is understood that he will continue in his bodily conception of life. Therefore, it is important for us to take initiation and serve Krishna more, and we advance like that, and we go back to Godhead in this lifetime, and we can all be back with Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki! Any questions or comments? It's really good, this, huh? Yeah. There's more to speak on that I found that was relevant to this topic, but we can't do it now. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki! Jai Hare Krishna.